bunch of seeds I thought was my catnip seed, but it wasn't. I laid it down in this bin to try and make another attempt at starting catnip, and failed at that very clearly, but we got some lettuce coming on. Took a beating in the rain last night, but we'll see how it does now. And I think it's acclimatized enough from indoor to outdoor light to go out in full sun. We'll see, maybe I can get a few salads out of it before I turn the soil into something more productive. Quick check up on our citrus cuttings. So far so good, everything's staying green. They got a little bit beat up in that rain that we had last night, but I do see some new growth on some of these leaves. They look like they're making a try at it, so I think we might have some degree of success. Might have a look, see at the elderberries. Those are cranking, and there's a couple of catnip down in there too. And those I should move out somewhere soon before they get entangled with the roots of the other plants. But nice to see. Quick check up on the rosemary cuttings I took last week. Those are looking good, perking up. Just left them up here on the table in a little bit lower light, just so they can kind of get established and get the roots set out. And then they'll go out in stronger sunlight soon. Well, I captured some radar clips in the beginning here. Probably share those in the beginning of this video, or maybe now. But we got some excellent rains last night. Good thunderstorms. Multiple surges of thunderstorm showers came through, and that gave us excellent soil moisture. So finally getting some rain, August 2nd, 2024, here in the Hudson Valley. And that orange area right there, just south of Hudson, is where our farm is, this region. So we're getting good rains, and that's excellent. I did not get back and get a foliar feed in tonight. Yeah, I just didn't have it in me tonight, and I had other errands to run. So, and we have rain forecasted into tomorrow night too, like this, thunderstorms on and off. So if they get a break between thunderstorms, I'll probably go out and put down a good foliar feed. Real nice moist soil. No dry spots underneath. It's soaked all the way through, nice and wet, and we can already see the buckwheat cover crop immediately responding to that, perking up. And I think we got hard enough rain last night, and we're supposed to get more this afternoon, evening, that it probably will help pop a lot of these other buckwheat seeds that didn't germinate very well. And I did notice as I was editing and rewatching the previous Reboot Agriculture 45, it was interesting how the trenches here where the soil was moisture was where we saw all the germination on the buckwheat through that drought period. So that's a pretty cool observation to make. And we'll just take a look at these quick now, and you can see they're already perking up from the moisture. They're much happier. And I held off. I did not do that foliar feed Thursday night or Friday. It's now Saturday. And I'm going to do that foliar feed either this evening if thunderstorms don't come before I can get back to it, or tomorrow morning, early, or afternoon, evening, if thunderstorms don't disrupt it. Anyway, it's on as soon as I can make that happen, and then I have to wait at least 2 days before I can take a plant sap sample and send it. So we'll see how that plays out, days of the week wise, and certain shipping days and all that kind of stuff. But if all goes well, we can hopefully get a plant sap sample off next week sometime. Probably won't be till the Friday send out rather than the Tuesday send out. Just the way things are going to work here. But I'm very happy to see that we got the rain that we need. We were starting to get into drought that was slowing progress, in addition to not getting out here and getting another couple of foliar feeds down in the meantime. Now I can come back and feel confident that I'm not going to hurt the plants when I give them a good foliar, and I can get that next shot of accelerate down on them, and that will make a huge difference in helping them start setting flowers and start filling fruit, as it were, which would be our tubers. It would be the fruit on this crop, basically. But that'll get us moving along. So I'm very happy to see their moisture. On my way along here, I'll just give you another clip of these further up the row. You can really see they're perking up a lot. Now, if you recall, about 3 weeks ago, there was a dividing area right here where our plants were a lot weaker, lighter in color. They were just hurting. I gave them a foliar feed, a specific targeted foliar feed, trying to address some of the Colorado potato bug that were in here. I was unsuccessful in killing the Colorado potato bug larvae, or worm, or whatever it is. But it's interesting to note that since I did that foliar feed, and that was a heavy, strong, hard feed, really targeted at improving plant health and immunity, and we can see there's a huge difference in plant health here already. And just remember, that's just a foliar feed. That was a spray on the leaves. That's all it was. A spray on the leaves of the right set of trace mineral, hormonal, macro, and mineral nutrition, along with biology, paired with biology, the right biology. And that made a tremendous difference. And the only other thing that's been put down in this field since it was cut up this year is a little bit of calcium sulfate, also known as gypsum. Just trying to increase the amount of calcium available to plants for cell walls, for fruit and flower filling, for all the processes. If we go back and look at that biochemical sequence of nutrition in plants, I'll throw that here. You should recall how critical calcium is in this. And we went really heavy on boron in that foliar feed. So what does that do with all that calcium? It unlocks it, immobilizes it, and it starts that biochemical sequence and gets it rolling. So now you can kind of see the results of what actually happens when you do that. And it's pretty cool and pretty rewarding and satisfying to see that. So just thought I would catch up a little bit on where these plants are at now compared to where they were. And look at that. We're setting flowers. I'll give you a quick clip of the tomatoes here as well. Post rain, you can see they're jumping up immediately. Right on. Whenever I go through, if I see a couple of weeds I don't like, I'll yank them. I really should come back and do a thorough weeding. That's probably not going to happen, but I did pull this one out, and I noticed how much soil was attached to those roots and how much came out, so I thought I would point it out. And I'll brush this back so you can see how big of a clump that brought with it. And it also left more roots behind. But look how much that soil clings to those roots. That's quite the clump. And we'll shake it loose now. And you can see that with all the biology connecting to that and adhering that soil and the roots together and making that like a systemic exchange community, basically. Phone just told me it's too hot again. It's too hot. You can see how much that soil has adhered to the root system, so much so that when I try to shake it free, I can't even get it all to come off. So that's an excellent indicator of how well our soil biology has taken, and what good condition our soil is in already, I should say. And I mentioned the buckwheat germinating, and here we go. Here's a spot where you can see, hope you can see on camera, that these are all starting to germinate from that rain last night. They were on the brink of it, and now they've had enough moisture and heat and humidity, and they're going to pop. And if we get thunderstorms again tonight, I don't have any concerns about those popping, setting a root down and growing, and they'll fill in the spots here where it's drier around the stone, where the buckwheat was unable to germinate during the hotter, drier period. Again, environment dictating gene expression. Hopefully the phone will stay cooled off long enough to get this shot for you. There's this huge clump of grass here. And I was going to pull it out, but I realized how big a root system it had. I thought I would catch it coming out. So you get an idea of exactly what our potato crops are doing. And that brings me to another point, and we'll take a little walk on the side of the field here. Right over there. I showed a shot of these grapevines that I talked about exploring what their capabilities were and testing them out, and maybe even foliar feeding with a hit. I ended up not getting a foliar feed on them. I figured we'll just let them do their native thing. When we come up and see clusters of grapes all over like this, we know immediately that this soil has a tremendous amount of capacity to yield fruit. It tells us a lot about the native soil that's here before we ever amend it or tune it to specific plants that we're growing. And so let's take a look at some other crops that are growing here in this hedgerow, right along next to the potatoes and tomatoes. And one actually could end up being a negative to us because of some of the compounds that are down here browsing. That's okay, they're fertilizing as well. This is the tree I'm talking about here. This is a walnut tree. And a neighbor down the street from my parents had many of these, several of these large ones on his property. And man, we used to go get a truckload every year. We'd dump them off, and this hull can be used for dyeing, but we would just let this hull rot off for a month or two on the driveway, and then we'd stomp it off with our boots. Wash your boots off real good before you go walking on the floor afterward. And that would yield that would reveal the nut. And I will grab some of these nuts in the fall because I love these. They're basically a northern native walnut, and they actually have a better flavor profile, I think, than the regular good walnuts you get in the store. These blow those away. And of course, they're native and local, and they grew naturally all by themselves. And they're all over this giant walnut tree. And a walnut tree can actually put out toxins and inhibit the growth of other plants around it. So that's something I'll have to look up again. It's been on another note here, as we go along, we see lots of other plants maturing. If you recall, I was munching on blackcaps out of here all season, and I've had blackberries out of various parts of this hedgerow. And we see, I don't know what kind of berry this is, but this is another bush loaded with berries, bearing fruit. Same with the grape clusters that are hanging off of that bush. And more, and another set of berries coming through, and another tree with berries all over it. So you see, this soil has tremendous capacity to yield fruit already. And so then all we got to do is figure out what's off in that tuning that makes it not so favorable to our crop, if anything at all, and then make it favorable. And here's another bush loaded with berries, and another tree loaded with berries. And here's a cherry tree, which is probably not at maturity for bearing berries yet, but won't be too long, and that'll be throwing berries. So I just wanted to point out how productive this land is natively on its own before we ever do anything to enhance it. All right, I guess I'll just stop and grab a quick clip of the blackberries here as well, just to prove the point again, just how much capacity the natural system has to yield all on its own, without any intervention on our part. These aren't getting much sun, so they're not very sweet. Photosynthesis drives the whole thing. You have no photosynthesis, you have no energy. All right, so quick checkup on the buckwheat, and you can see from the last video to this one a tremendous difference in growth already. And again, we see how these soils that were able to hold more moisture so much more advanced over the rest of the crop area. And so this is another tool, another metric you can use when you first discover and set up a plot. You go through and plant your cover crops in. Not only do you get the benefit of building that soil up in the meantime, but you also get to learn a lot about how that particular piece of soil grows, where it holds moisture, and many other things about it that you wouldn't learn until you grew a crop in it. And it might actually benefit you tremendously to grow a cover crop in an area before you ever plant your intended long-term crops or cropping system in place, because you can see where the nutrition is much higher, much better, the soil moisture is better, the plant vigor is better. You know, again, it's a very clear difference there. And I'll give you a shot across the field too, the other way, so you can get a perspective that yields better results. There you go, you can see all that nice soil, and it drops. That's not very good. And then on the other side of that ridge, it picks up again. So then what's that tell us when we go to plant this? Well, if I have a crop that needs a tremendous amount of nutrition and I want it to really excel, I should probably stay in this closer targeted zone for that crop and do something with less nutrient demand out in that zone as I start to break this out into rows and figure out how I'm going to actually crop this piece of soil. So you can learn a lot just from cover cropping. About here we are on the upper block here with the tomatoes, ginger, turmeric, holy basil, tarragon, etc. Let's look at the tarragon quick. These are responding very nicely to the rain shot that we had. That's nice to see. They were really kind of struggling after that transplant and that drought. And now we're getting some really nice grow back. And I might take some of that for cooking tonight for something, although I already kind of made stuff. Ginger is already responding immediately with the moisture. Much happier. Hopefully that'll recover, come through and do well. Tomatoes are just rocking. And we see flowers and fruit starting to set here despite not being staked correctly. And we got fruit developing down lower. And again, these haven't even had a foliar feed. They're probably a month now, actually, because the potatoes, I think, were 3 weeks ago. And I did do a foliar feed on the tomatoes when I did the potatoes in that targeted feed. They really haven't had anything in quite some time. And they're really doing well since they got that moisture back. We'll have a look over here at the, see, we got cherries coming on here. The turmeric is really responding well to the moisture as well. You can see that starting to peek its way up through. And even the ginger here, that's a ginger right there popping up through. And we got all kinds of holy basil seed going on down here. So I guess it's time for me to make a first seed harvest run. We got honeybees in here working, all kinds of native pollinators. I guess we'll just carry on down the road quick. You can see we still got some deer or rabbit pressure munching on the turmeric where it's not more protected by the tomatoes. Somebody yanked out a ginger on us here, chewed it off and yanked it out. That was nice of them. We need to get fenced. But you know, overall, the plant is recovering really well since it got the rain. Look how much that sprung up. It just blew up. And then this is all holy basil all around, everywhere. All through here. And again, I've mentioned in almost every video, I just sprinkle the seed down and let the rain drive it in. We got tomatoes developing here despite not being staked. Something knocked that off, huh? I mean, not bad for no care, no feed, no mulch, no rain, no love, really. And they're still performing pretty well. And I don't know if I will even get to staking everything I need to this season. But it is what it is. It's a great test run to see how things are. We'll give you one last more overview aerial shot of the whole block there with the buckwheat on it before I jet out. I gotta either plan and prepare a foliar feed this evening or not. I gotta go. Fairly clear that way. Not so much that way. Thanks for watching the Farms to Seeds Network. You know the deal. You reap what you sow.
So later that same day, about 9:19 p.m., we still have rain showers pushing through here, so I'm holding off on this foliar feed yet again. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think they're going to be happy to have the rain. And you can see it's doing kind of that nor'easter peel back around thing. So I think we're going to continue to get showers and rain, and I'm not going to complain about that at all. We'll just take a look at our forecast here quick for 10-day. For a general area, it looks like more scattered thunderstorms tomorrow, and then clearing out and getting hot and sunny again Monday. So I will probably execute that foliar feed tomorrow evening when it will have the most effect, and they'll have time to absorb it, and the humidity will be high, which will keep us in a better range where the point of deliquescence is more ideal. And that's basically like keeping a higher humidity makes those nutrients available to the plant on the leaf surface for a longer period, rather than if we had lower humidity. We'll talk about that more at some point, the point of deliquescence.